The Pittsburgh Penguins are very much in the infancy phase in their pursuit for a new general manager to replace Ron Hextall. And while a list has emerged of possible candidates, one seems to jump right off the charts as to who the Fenway Sports Group favors, and if they have their way, will be the guy to be taking over next year. That name is Toronto Maple Leafs general manager Kyle Dubas. The 37-year-old Dubas has been Toronto's general manager since 2018, and he's in the final year of his contract with the team. Belief is if the Leafs do not win their playoff series against Tampa and wind up getting bounced in the first round, the two sides are going to part company. Now, here's some grumblings from online. Mark Madden, controversial sports jock out of Pittsburgh, who has a lot of ties to the Penguins, so definitely put stock behind this, states that the Dubas to Penguins rumors are getting much, much louder. Elliot Friedman noted on an episode of the Jeff Merrick Show that the Penguins have full plans to build out their analytics department, and also added that this isn't exactly something new. They've been working on this for quite a while now. So being they're looking to build this analytics bit, there wouldn't be a better fit for that than Kyle Dubas. Absolutely. Makes a ton of sense. Let's see some other ones here. Mike Stevens of the Hockey News reports that the rumblings he's heard are that the Fenway Sports Group is ready to put on the full court press on Dubas if he leaves Toronto. Jeff Vallette reports that the silver bullet the Penguins could have for Dubas isn't money, but it's the Fenway Sports Group as a whole. And also adds in this comment that depending upon what role they want to slot him in, there might be some interest there to have the Boston Red Sox and Liverpool FC in his long view mirror. Analytics, baseball, could he wind up doing triple duty? That's a real appeal. That is a real appeal. And lastly, Chris Johnson of TSN noted on his show that there's more and more talk of the Penguins being interested in Dubas, but doesn't have any specific information regarding their interest in him. Okay, well, so bottom line is the Penguins are interested in Dubas, and from what Madden and Friedman, from what Madden states that the interest is louder and louder. So my guess is he's their number one guy, and honestly, if he's their number one guy with the tenuous relationship that the Leafs and Dubas seem to have at this point, the fact that he hasn't signed a contract extension leads me to believe there's a lot of smoke behind this. Now, let's look at some of the pros here of Dubas. Number one, he is, in terms of win percentage, the most successful general manager the Leafs have had over the last 50 years. That does count for something. Number two, the guy did inherit a salary cap-ridden mess that Lou Lamoriello left behind, and he's done a great job. He did a great job, at least in the beginning, of cleaning it up. Got rid of some crappy salaries, really ditched a lot of bad players that were taking up a lot of room on the roster and a lot of cap space. So I give him credit for that. Number three, he handled the Mike Babcock situation as good as a general manager possibly could have handled it. Number four, he seems to get along well with the players. And if anybody says who cares, that does matter. Number five, I know people hate analytics. I know some people hate them. That's the direction hockey's going in, guys, whether we like it or not. The sports world is becoming more of an analytics-based one. And if this is the direction the Penguins are going in, you cannot do any better than Kyle Dubas. 37, he's young. This guy's going to be around a while. He's coming into a situation where, look, it's a lot similar to what happened in Toronto. He's going to be in with a big mess, salary cap-wise. He cleaned up one. Could he clean up another? He's got a track record. Now, let's talk about some of the negatives here. And believe me, for a guy that's had a track record of winning, this team, not many Maple Leafs fans seem to give a shit if he leaves. Let me show you some of the complaints that Maple Leafs fans have had. And this is actually written up by the HockeyWriters.com for what they've heard. All right, number one, top 10 list of criticisms they've heard on Dubas, that they've heard Dubas face. Number one, he's focused too much on analytics and not enough on traditional scouting methods. There's beef behind that argument. I get it. And I also understand that, look, we're in a modern phase where it's becoming more of a numbers-based game, but you do have to pay some attention to traditional methods. You can't just ignore one side of it. Number two, Dubas has signed some players to questionable contracts. Specifically, he signed stars to expensive contracts and let go of other valuable players. Result is the roster's too top-heavy. He's overpaid stars Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, and John Tavares, which has limited a team's ability to build a deep roster. Okay, listen. I'm not going to argue with 2 of the 3 of them. Matthews is a generational talent. You absolutely could not let him get away, and it looks like the Leafs still might. He's a free agent after next year. And if you buy into conspiracy theories, he might be gone sooner than that. That's a different video for a different time. Mitch Marner, I mean, he may not be a generational talent, but he's certainly a franchise guy. He's certainly a guy you don't want to let go. I mean, do you let those guys walk? No, that's dense. These are 2 young, talented players that are, top of the line. You got to keep them. Tavares, I can understand, but at the time, hindsight's 2020. Everybody was all about them signing John Tavares. The league was crazy about, this guy was coveted by multiple teams. Toronto hit the jackpot at the time. I know long term, did it limit them? Yeah, it did. That's the only one I would sit there and tell you that they probably flunked on. But at the time, was it a failure? No. Certainly you're going to complain about signing Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner. I don't buy that. I don't. Number 3, despite changes to the team each offseason, the Maple Leafs have failed to win in the playoffs. And that's the biggest complaint I'm going to give you guys. In fact, the 3 biggest complaints, without reading any more of this, their failure to win in the playoffs. That's the same situation the Penguins have had. The lack of goaltending. I think they've only brought in one that showed me any kind of hope for the future. That's Jack Campbell, and they let him walk after a year. And, the lack of development on the farm. That's something that, status quo. I don't want to do status quo. But we'll keep reading here and see what they say. All right. But despite changes to each offseason, they failed to win the playoffs. This led to disappointment for fans. Specifically, their defense is weak, and Dubas has not done enough to address that. I don't necessarily agree with they didn't do enough. The Tyson Barrie deal was meant to do that. They did go out and get several players on defense to try to make them better. Some of them have worked out. Some of them have worked out. Can't really, complain about that with the lack of getting defense. He has tried. Sometimes they've worked, sometimes they don't. Dubas has not done enough to... Dubas has not done enough to address the team's lack of toughness and physicality. He avoids signing physical players, resulting in a team that is weak and soft in the playoffs. I can't argue that. The Maple Leafs' lack of success in the playoffs is a reflection of his inability to build a team that can win in the postseason. Specifically, his teams have failed to win a single playoff series despite having talented players. No argument here. The team's salary cap is a mess. That's due to Dubas' bad decision. That sort of goes along with 2. Again, is Austin Matthews really a questionable contract? Is Mitch Marner, maybe John Tavares, but again. 7, I cannot stress this enough. I can't stress this enough. Dubas has not done enough to address the team's goaltending issues. Signing Matt Murray and Ilya Samsonov was a huge mistake. Samsonov, no. Murray, yes. Samsonov, I still think, has a future. He's looked good in limited duty, but then again, I guess you could say limited duty. Valid point. Dubas has made a series of bad trades. He brought in underperforming players and let the good ones walk for nothing. God, that sounds familiar. Dubas hasn't helped the organization improve its minor league system. Yeah, that sounds familiar. Doesn't show enough patience in developing young players, and he's traded away too many prospects and draft picks. Boy, that sounds familiar. And last, the Maple Leafs' lack of success in recent years is a reflection of a deeper organizational issue. However, Dubas is the general manager. It's his fault. He's done a poor job and hasn't taken enough accountability for his team's failures. Well, let's take a look and see what some of these trades here. And let's take a look at some of the stuff here. Some of the trades that they're some of the trades here that they're most critical of. All right, Leafs lost more trades. So this is, again, from the HockeyRaiders.com. The Leafs lost more trades with Dubas. When you pay your forwards more than 50% of your budget, here are players that have been shipped out and brought in by Dubas. Nazem Kadri. Tyson Barrie, Alex Kerfoot. Kerfoot's been okay, but he's no Kadri. Okay, again, Barrie was a bust, I get it, but again, hindsight's 2020. Mason Marchment, okay, that trade sucked. I will say it. That trade was garbage. Mason Marchment for Denis Malgin. Malgin played 8 games for Toronto and has been out of the league. He's playing in Europe. Yeah, that trade sucked. That was ass. Connor Brown, yeah, that trade sucked too. Yeah, that was horrible. That was okay. This is not convincing me. Kasperi Kapanen, we all saw that one. 3 players. Let's see. So Kapanen, Toronto got 3 players who never suited up for the team in a first-round draft pick. The pick was used to select Rodion Amarov, who has been diagnosed with a brain tumor. Future unclear. Okay, well, I talked about Kapanen in the last video. They did that to clear space, though. That's the problem. They did that to clear space. Matt Martin for Eamon McAdam, who's never played yet. That deal sucked, too. Nick Foglino. Oh, Jesus. They traded a first-round pick for Foglino, who played 11 games for them. Yeah, I'm not liking this too much, man. I'm not liking this shit at all. This sucks. Okay, the 2021 trade deadline, David Rittich. They paid Calgary a third-round pick for Rittich, who played 4 games. This is fucking horrible. This is horrible. Here's a good one, but Jake Muzzin. That turned out all right. I mean, they gave up a first-round pick and 2 prospects. That's not bad. Jack Campbell. Campbell did good. Campbell did real good. Then they let him walk. So, yeah, that's a horrible track record. I got to tell you, that is a fucking horrible track record. Yeah, that's... I don't know, guys. I don't know. I don't... Guy makes questionable trades. Very questionable. Throws capital away. Doesn't pay much attention to the farm system. Developing these players. Treats the goaltending situation like musical fucking chairs. Didn't we just see a general manager walk out the door, not necessarily involuntarily, less than 2 years, a little over 2 years ago, I should say, a little over 2+ years ago, that did the same damn thing? I mean, I'm sorry, if we're replacing the general manager here in Pittsburgh, I want to see progress, forward progress. That's why Hextall was ushered out. I don't want status quo. I don't want to see this team go out there and get a younger analytics version of Jim fucking Rutherford. I'm sorry. No offense. Right? I want this team to go out and get someone who is going to put emphasis on the farm. That's going to go out there and put emphasis on goaltending. And I don't mean you have to go out and spend a huge chunk of your cap to sign, a Bobrovsky like Florida did. That hasn't worked out. But you got to do something, man. You got to fix up the goaltending. You got to maybe tinker the defense some. Right? This is the shit that what I'm seeing with Dubas is again, it's Jim Rutherford 2.0. The only difference is he's younger. He looks more at the numbers game. He does the mathematics shit. He's not the old school, old guard like Rutherford is. I'm not crazy about this. And the fact that Toronto wants his ass gone, and after seeing some of these trades, I get why. The only one I'm looking at there that I could possibly justify that sucked was the Kadri deal. I got it. Tyson Barrie was a good defenseman. They thought they were getting themselves a top 4D, which was needed. This isn't good, man. And if this is what Fenway Sports Group is doing for the GM search, I'm horrified. I'd rather swing for the fences and go get a Cami Granato, or one of the other up and comers. Because I am not liking this shit at all. I don't care if Dubas has experience. So did Hextall. Do better. This sucks. We'll talk soon.